Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead of them and their companies. I'm your host, Olivia Salmons, and in each episode we'll uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today I'm very excited to be joined by Nancy Clairmont Carr, founder of The Joy Effect. Nancy works with entrepreneurs and leaders to help them create growth and impact through higher connections. Help them create growth and impact through higher
consciousness.
Yes, that's exactly what it says. Thank you so much. Nancy worked with entrepreneurs and leaders to help them create growth and impact through higher consciousness, aligned mindset, intuition, and business strategy. Her work explores a different angle on growth, focusing on how internal alignment, belief, and awareness directly influence external results. Nancy, welcome to Founders Future. Thank you so much for joining me here today.
Thank you, Olivia. I'm excited to be here.
I appreciate your time, and I'm very much excited to dive in and learn a little bit more about your journey. So, Nancy, with all of my guests, I do actually like to start at the beginning of their journey. So if you don't mind briefly taking me back to what it was you was doing before you started up The Joy Effect, and then from there, what was the motivation behind it?
Well, I was a corporate executive for 15 years and worked in personal care, food, and then medical device health industry for, as I say, about 15 years. And I recognized that I was a leader that was similar to others, where the stress was related to growth. And so after that period of time, I decided I wanted to exit the environment and create a way for myself and others to learn a different way of leading, learn a different way of growing that didn't impact health so severely that I experienced and I saw prevalent across industries. So that was my inspiration for leaving and finding, I had no idea what I was going to do. But, I think when you set your intention and you decide, you must make a decision, right? You decide what you want to do. The way shows up for you if you work at it, if you allow it to happen. So that's what I did. And that was the beginning of my entrepreneurial venture. And I started with energy medicine products, added health coaching to it. Along the way, since I'm always excited about new ways to optimize health and growth, I discovered energy healing as a modality for changing our limiting beliefs and fears and other stuck energy that just became blocks for growth. So I became a transformed being and learned everything I could about it and got really certified in all kinds of industries.
Love that.
I used that as a basis then to found The Joy Effect and put the business strategy together with health coaching and then this practice and modality of changing and upgrading our internal operating system, pretty much.
Beautiful stuff. I love it. I love how you've taken more of a holistic approach to business, if that's okay with me saying so, because naturally you'll know yourself, obviously coming from that corporate background, it can be quite a hustle and quite a grind, and naturally it does put your health on the line in doing so. And I don't think, obviously, I'm not saying this that it's done maliciously or with intention, but it is obviously growth comes a lot of stress, as you say, and if you're not prepared or you don't know how to take on that stress,
Right.
unfortunately, as the individual, it does directly affect you and not so much the company that you're working for or even growing yourself. So
Yeah.
it is about regulating your own systems, making sure you're putting your energy in place, aligning yourself with what you believe and your intentions, as you said there at the start on your own journey. I think it's Tony Robbins that kind of come out with that famous quote. It's like, you follow your intentions and everything else will come good. Because as you say, you've made that decision, you're on that
Yeah.
road and you're looking for that impact. So run to the hills with it. And I suppose, Nancy, did you ever see yourself becoming an entrepreneur? Or was that something that just developed for yourself naturally as you went along your own journey and realized there was a big group of people you can very much impact with what you was doing?
As you're speaking, I'm getting waves of shivers, and that always happens when something really profound has been said. I notice, and when you ask me that question, it's so interesting because I grew up in a family of my dad was an entrepreneur. And that was the last thing in the world I wanted because I thought he represented the kind of entrepreneur everybody was, right? And he was very controlling, and it wasn't my cup of tea. And so I went into the corporate world, but I guess I'm a change agent. I've always been a leader ever since I was a little girl in Girl Scouts and, sold a bunch of cookies and all that other stuff. But so I just sort of took the bull by the horn and decided, well, if I'm going to make a difference, I gotta, I have to take charge of it. And that's how it started. I didn't know where it would lead, Olivia, quite frankly. And it just evolved. It really did
Love that.
evolve, and
Yeah.
it became a driver for me to continually seek a better way. I'm the kind of person that is an eternal optimist, and even though I love who I am, I know I can always get better. And so that really has driven everything I do. And so was I driven to become an entrepreneur? No. I remember I quit the corporate world and I thought, well, I'll figure it out. So that's just what drove me. And as a result, you just take one step at a time. And because I'm so intuitively driven, I don't always have the 5-year plan because you know what? You
Yeah.
only make decisions in the moment, ever. Even though
I
you
love
have a 5-year plan or a 1-year plan, I tell my clients, look, I got a life plan, I got an annual, I got a monthly, I got a quarterly, and I got a day plan. But every morning I tune in and I say, what do you want me to do now? And I'm telling
it.
you, sometimes it's an hour of things I have to do before I get going, or sometimes it's just a little clearing and a little switch. So I think just being intuitively guided makes you have the most optimal path with the least effort.
I could not agree more. And for me, when you are intuitively guided or you're in touch with your intuitions, I feel like it means you're a very aligned person, So naturally your intuitions will guide you to where you need to be or where you should be. I love how you highlighted that because I feel like, especially there might be a lot of listeners that can very much resonate, they think they have to have that plan set out for them. It's like I made this decision, so that means I have to go for that goal. And in my mind, in my life, I follow exactly the same rules as you. Like I don't have a plan for tomorrow. Yes, it will be the same as today or the same as it ever is if I'm currently working towards that goal, but things can change and my
Oh my
mindset
God.
can change daily around that. It just depends on kind of, as you say, what's put in front of you and what you need to do in that moment,
Yeah,
which is a really cool
totally.
process. I love
I
that.
mean, at 5 years old, my dad used to say to me, "What's your plan and how are you going to get there?" So that was sort of the mindset I grew up with. But I realized we don't have to do it that way. We can evolve, and thank goodness.
Yeah,
I mean, the tools we had when I first started in this industry over 30 years ago were minimal. They were affirmations, and if you've worked with Tony Robbins and others, you know what I'm talking about. They were minimal. Now we have transformation tools and energy modalities that Oh, well, I compare it when I started this work in 2017, 2007, and
wow.
now I'm able to transform my clients 85% faster because of the energy on the planet. And so think about that. So transformation really isn't just an elective anymore. It's like if you're not doing it, you're going to be in the dust in your industry. So,
That's so true. And as you like, for me, again, we'll get into the topic a little bit more because it does lead on to my next question. But especially within the corporate world, back to what we was talking about, I think energy work, somatic healing, however you want to put it, nervous system regulation needs to be coming into effect and coming into play. Literally, you just said it there, the whole world is built on energy. If we're
yes.
not tapping into that, we're not using that for our own beliefs and for whatever we want to do in life, we're kind of missing out a little bit. And you're already behind that wave if you're not kind of in tune with it already.
Yeah, and
Um,
more and more energy is coming to the planet. We're seeing that energy destroying all of our current systems right now. The education system. This is on a global plane. The education, the legal system, the healthcare system. Every system you look around is really disintegrating before our eyes, and the
yeah.
phoenix is going to rise in all of those systems and change. And if you don't have the ability to discern and to have intuition, how are you going to be a dynamic leader? How are you going to have that dynamic vision moving forward? So energy becomes the key success for the future, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you. We're both on the same page on that front. So that's really cool. So let's dive into the joy effect a little bit more then, just so the listeners can have some
Mhm.
context as well moving
Okay.
forward. So Nancy, at this point I know you said you started obviously the practice around 2007. So we've been kind of been in the industry, in the world for a long time, which is pretty cool. So at this point who would you say like is your ideal client? Like who is it that you very, very much love to work with the most? And then from there, how is it you help them? And how would you support them along their own journey?
Yeah. So my ideal clients and the people I work with are seasoned leaders, whether they're entrepreneurs, organization, corporate leaders, people responsible for growth. I guess that would sum it up wherever they land. And how I help them is they're not afraid of work. It's not that they don't know how to grow a business, but as we have been discussing, that relationship between stress or unregulated stress and unregulated nervous system and growth tends to parallel. And so I help them reframe what leadership is and how to
Mm,
access change agents for their internal operating system. And so we start by identifying everything is intention based, as we discussed already. And so by first starting with what is your key intention, what do you want to be, do, and have in the world? What kind of change and impact do you want to have? Starting there, we then define, because energy follows intention. And so once you define what you're going for, I then help with business strategy for them. I help with health optimization because I operate 100% intuitively and I go into their subconscious mind to identify what needs to be addressed. We start doing the clearing that's needed. I mean, I'm an expert in multidimensional healing and several other modalities at this point. So it's not like, oh, what do I use? I just do it, right? It just comes to me and we make the changes there. And then we also work with their business. What are they trying to do in their business? And what I found is that there's always a more effective and efficient and flow approach than maybe they were doing. So these are seasoned leaders, but they may not be seasoned in using their intuition. So by me
Yeah.
tapping into their intuitive guidance, I can help them be their voice until I have time to teach them how to do that themselves. And so that's really the focus of the journey, is for them to become more and more empowered with this kind of intuitive internal guidance that helps them know exactly how to shift, how to read, their world, and make changes accordingly. And all the time clearing those subconscious patterns and energy that just does not serve them anymore. And
I
we
love
just
it.
do it naturally. And I'm not going to give all my secrets away, but that's what the flow is. And it's always upgraded. And the cool thing, Olivia, is these kinds of changes in the programs create cumulative, permanent, exponential, or actually more logarithmic changes. So they're not just one and one is two, it's, one and one is four, and pretty soon one and one is 10. It's sort of like the map of consciousness. If you're familiar with that, it's such a logarithmic increase. So that's the work that I do with them, and I do it through executive one-to-one coaching. I do it through mastermind group coaching, where we have both one-to-one and group kinds of programming. I have structured and held several different conferences to teach people different things. And I do intuitive classes and intuitive support groups where we get together, and it's really cool. They all come with their intention and everybody clears them. They tune in, they read what's going on, and they clear them, and it just breaks the barriers like that. And so it's super fun.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of programs that really take advantage then of this energy. And maybe they then become like mini support groups for each other, and they can go and help each other.
Yeah.
So I'm a total, empowering kind of leader. I've always been a cheerleader for others, and so I make it that way in my groups as well, and in my one-to-ones as well.
Beautiful stuff. And I think that's what it's all about with this work, when you are kind of relying on yourself, connecting with energy, getting in flow. I really enjoyed that you use those words because that's what it is, it's becoming in
Yeah,
flow with energy. You don't end up pivoting, you're not bouncing in a way. It's kind of like you navigate yourself around the challenges before they've even occurred. In flow is a really good way to
exactly.
put it.
Exactly.
So yeah, and you're very much getting down on a level, as you say, you can provide them with multiple ways to work with you. Maybe it's their first kind of experience within this kind of sector, so they can take that nice and slowly. They can jump into the one-to-ones and have you guided. I love the camaraderie you're bringing to the offer as well.
Yeah.
Usually a group offer has that, and you know yourself, it can be a very lonely place in a leadership role, whether you are an entrepreneur or working within an organization. So having other people you can lean on, go through that experience with, and just, as you say, find friends along the way and build your own relationships is a really cool aspect. So I really like that part. One thing I'm very curious to find out, because it is a very busy, noisy world at the moment. So how do you go about acquiring your customers? Like what channels or methods are you really finding most effective, Nancy, in finding those right people to work with?
So this might shock you. I have never had to advertise one time to get my business where it is. It's been 100% referral. I started with new entrepreneurs, and as they seasoned and developed and grew their business, I morphed into the more seasoned entrepreneurs and the corporate leaders, and it's been 100% referral. And I have a 99.9% conversion rate when people are referred to me. I always give people a 30-minute conversation. They find out about me, I find out about them, I allow them to make their own decision. But who wouldn't want this? I mean, I just can't imagine. I wish I had this 30 years ago, right?
I
So
love that.
so it's been a very natural organic growth now, but as I look to the future, as to the new things I'm doing, I have to set up new systems to create a different sort of lead gen path and conversion,
Okay.
and I'm in the process of doing that for some new programming that's coming up. So
Nice.
it is exciting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's exciting stuff. But as you said, but I don't think many people are able to build a business on referral. So it does just show kudos to the work you are doing. And I feel very much in the work you're doing, it very much leans into that space because it has to be both connections on both sides. I'm assuming, you are giving away a lot of your own energy to other people. So making sure they're a good fit for yourself. I think a referral system is a great way to do that. And then, as you say, just adding on top for the new stuff you've got out. We will touch on that later on because I'm excited to hear your plans for the future. But do you have a team?
Can I interrupt you for a minute? You use
Please
something that has been my middle name since I was a child, fit. Everything for me in life is a fit. I mean, I remember when I worked in the corporate world, Olivia, and the first time I got fired, like from my one of my first big corporate job, and I thought, "Huh, I was looking for a job when I got this, right?" And then I went out and I found fit. So I've always looked for fit. And when you do that, you look for what you can contribute to and what you can grow in. If you're looking for fit, you always have a magical combustive sort of relationship. And so that's what I look for when I bring clients in. They have to be sort of ready for how fast I move them. And then we can definitely move that fast. So I just wanted to stop you and
Yeah.
capture that word because it's very critical going forward too.
No, it is. And a lot of people kind of, it's not they ignore it, but they don't think of how important it is, not only from your customer's point of view, but even for yourself. If you've not got the energy or the mindset to work with that person, they're not going to get the results they deliver. So they're
Right.
losing, you're losing, and then the referral system you built is non-existent because you're not making sure that you can actually learn something along that process as well. I love the fact
Exactly.
that it's in there. And do you have a team there helping out at all, Nancy, or are you kind of wearing all the hats amongst yourself as the founder?
Oh, I wear a million hats, but I have a very good team. I have several teams. I have a marketing
Cool.
team. I have a great website team that I've been with for 15 years. I also have independent people because consciousness work and doing branding and other sorts of marketing in this world requires, I think, strategies and communication elements and assets that capture the energy. And so I have specific people that I use, and actually they're my clients as well. We go back and forth. It's kind of cool.
Nice.
To capture the energy, like in sacred geometry, for instance, in branding. And so I refer them out all the time as well. But
Love it.
I do have a pretty strong team, and I know that as I move into my new ventures, I'm going to have to get more support. I'm ready to do that. Again, I'll just follow my guidance, and we'll see what that's going to require.
I love that. But you've got a good group of people behind you, and as you say, we can grow on that as we look to grow. And it almost sounds like working in alongside like unison or partnerships with your clients as well. As you
I
say, you
do.
kind of provide them a service, which is really cool. Again, it just shows the work that you are doing, and kudos to that, which is a cool aspect. So, with all that being said, Nancy, what are your visions or your ambitions for the company moving forward? When you think of maybe like the next 6 to 12 months ahead, what are those milestones or those targets you're looking forward to achieving?
Uh-huh. I have two very specific expansion plans. One is I've been speaking for years, and as I say, I've held conferences and stuff, but that's been sort of on my own terms. And so I'm moving into a speaking platform where it's a speaking business. And so
Cool.
I'm moving into keynote speaking, organizational speaking, association speaking, anywhere I can deliver this message of expanding leadership capacity through expanding internal capacity, right?
Nice.
So that's one new platform I'm building, and that's going to require lots of systems. And I actually have a coach for that, which I'm really grateful for. He and his team are excellent, and they're very good with systems. And so I'm learning. That's not a strong suit. I think it's helpful if you know where you need help, and that's where I need help right now. So I'm setting up all those systems, and they're brilliant. And so that is one of the areas I'm planning to grow in, both from a revenue and impact standpoint, but also to bring the message to new clients who will then funnel into my new program offering, which is a community, which is called Enlightened Leader Sunroom Community. And it's a group of enlightened leaders, seasoned leaders who want to grow in this capacity, who want to know how they can expand their own leadership capacity, who want to learn how they can, reprogram themselves and learn all of those elements that I teach in a new framework I have called Dynamic Sovereign Matrix, which teaches all the elements. It's my secret sauce. And so that's going to be in the community, and all my programs are in the community. People can choose whatever they want, but it'll all be available to
Nice.
them. So I'm super excited about that. So we're in launch mode on both of those. So there's a lot of work going on, right? So yes, I wear a lot of hats. I depend on my teams a lot. But we are moving forward, and change is my middle name. I love it.
Love it. Moving forward, and some new ventures and some exciting ventures coming up, as you say, very much leaning into the impactful side of it as well, just helping as many people as possible. Naturally speaking, I think is a great way to like build connections. You hear a lot of energy in somebody's voice, so it's nice you're putting yourselves in those right rooms and just ready to really get your name out there and being heard and seen on the stages, which is pretty cool. And then adding the community aspect again, just very much leads into that camaraderie you was looking at before. I like the fact that, as you say, you're providing with the secret sauce and they can go through it in their own time. They've got access to everything, access of
Exactly.
what it's like to work with you. And then just taking those next steps if they want to move into that one-to-one approach, at least they've had a little bit of taster and can take their time over going through. Because as you say, when they start working with you, they need to be ready because they're moving at a speed. So we're allowing them to speed up before they get to that point, which is really cool. Where are you probably finding the biggest challenge for yourself at the moment, Nancy, in taking those next steps and achieving those goals?
Mhm. I would say what I already mentioned is just setting up the systems.
Yeah,
I am a very high energy, pretty creative, solution provider, but the thing that limits me is my own time at this point. And so that's why I'm in the process of setting up new systems so that I don't have to do even as much as I do. I want to download that into automation and probably new people in programming
nice.
too. So that will be a big solution to get rid of the bottleneck. So,
Love
so
it.
it's not just the lead generation, but it's also then the conversion and how to integrate them into the sunroom and make their experience wildly phenomenal and without any
Yeah,
hitches. So I'm putting some of those people in places as well. But I wanted to just comment on one thing if I could. The
please.
reason I'm launching a new community is with the new energy coming onto the planet and the focus on the shifts that are happening energetically, community becomes a very critical piece of how we grow, learn, and actually thrive, not just survive, but thrive. And so it's important for leaders to pick the right community. And I may not be for everybody, but I am for those who like the concepts that I'm offering, right? And um, it's going to be a very strong community. And if people don't recognize the need for community, I think they will over time because it's pretty difficult changing on their own. And I was just creating a VSL for my new landing page, and one of the things I was trying to express is leaders come to a stage where they've been doing things the same for a long time, and they can choose to recognize that they can't keep going the same way or they will like expire from fatigue or
Yeah.
stress or health issues. And so it's sort of a fork in the road or a new paradigm that they need to decide if they're open to. And that's what I offer people is a new paradigm, thinking differently about growth. And that's what this community is going to focus on. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, I love that. And as you say, you might not be for everybody, but for those right people, they're going to find a load of other people that are in very similar space. And you do need a community around you when you are doing this kind of work. And not only is it important to use as a sounding board and whatever else, but also there's people in your outside world that might not understand the process you're going through. So you end up leaving a few people behind. So it's nice to have people around you can lean on and understand the process you're
Right.
going through because it isn't for everybody. So having that group of people that do understand you is so vital and so comforting as well.
I just wished I'd had it growing up.
Yeah, yeah, I think everyone does.
Yeah,
There's a
exactly.
few of us that can resonate. But it's
Exactly.
cool stuff. And Nancy, I do have one final question to ask you before we log out. So if you could go back in time to a younger self and you could only leave yourself with one piece of advice moving forward, something you know now, but that you didn't know back then, what would you say to yourself?
Um, I don't know if this is revelatory or not, but I've worked with coaches my entire working career, and I worked with some of the greats. I mean, Bob Proctor, Brian Tracy, Dennis Wheatley, way back, and then a lot of people since then. Every single person said the same thing, and it's what I say and do now, and that is you must continually work on the inside in order to grow externally. And I grew up in a household where that was emphasized. So it was natural to me, but it might not be for everybody coming out of their native home, right? And so that is the piece of advice I got all my life and followed it. And it is what I give people now. So whether you want a transformational leader like me who can bring you into the 30th century, or you want to do it on your own, somehow you must find what you align with to grow. And
Yeah.
in order to change, not change for change's sake, but to remove interference for optimal growth. That's really how I look at it. What is the interference you're dealing with in the moment that if you can move that, you will take that next step effortlessly. And so that's really my 2 cents worth for all leaders out there. What is it that is blocking you right now that is going to keep your leadership capacity ceiling right there that you need to move? And I suggest you do it my way, because what I offer and the people like me is that we have a program that is continuous upgrade. It's not a one-time change. So that internal growth must be ongoing. So that's my advice.
I love that. And thank you so much for joining me, Nancy. What a beautiful way to end the podcast. I really appreciate your time today. Where can our listeners reach out best to work with you or connect with you if they would like to?
NancyClairmontCarr.com. They can reach me. And it just says, work with Nancy. You can set up a free call. I'm happy to talk to anybody that wants to know more. I'd love to help people. I can probably help you identify what your key block is in a few nanoseconds. So it's always a fun conversation. That's where they can reach me, and I invite all to try.
Beautiful stuff. And thank you again, Nancy. I really appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to go and check out Nancy Clairmont Carr. She just said, check out the website, book a call, speak to her, even drop her a message. I'm sure she'd love to hear from everybody. And do not forget to subscribe to Founders Future via wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with one of our team and discover how we went from $0 to $30 million per year in less than 3 years. But until then, keep on climbing, and we will see you